By the end of today's episode, you'll know all the things you need to avoid doing when it comes to self-tapes. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Bentsen, and today I'm going to be discussing some of the major don'ts when it comes to self-taping. We're going to talk about how to fix lighting, sound, and framing issues. We'll talk about what to wear and how to make sure that your self-tape doesn't have distracting elements in it. And finally, how to do a strong performance that actually captures the casting director's attention. So, here are some of the worst things that you can do in self-tapes in no particular order. Number 1, terrible lighting. If people can't see your face, casting directors are obviously not going to be able to judge your acting. They're not going to think that you're professional, and they're probably just going to move past you. So what you want to do is you want to use soft lighting, like either a ring light or a natural light from a window. Or you could, if you don't have anything to soften the light, you could take a harsh light and point it directly at a wall to sort of create bounce light, which will be a lot softer. What you don't want are harsh shadows or a bright light coming from behind you where your face is in darkness. Most of your face should be lit up and the background should be either a similar brightness level to your face or slightly less bright. Number 2 is bad sound, right? So you don't want to have bad sound in your self-tapes. If your voice is hard to hear or echoey or really low, or there's a lot of distracting stuff in the background, it's going to be really difficult, again, for them to judge your acting ability, and they're going to think that you're not very professional. For that reason, I recommend make sure that wherever you're recording is a quiet room. Of course, you should use a microphone if you have one. If you don't have one, throw blankets and stuff all over the floor to deaden the sound so it's less echoey, and then try to get the camera as close to you as you can while still having the proper framing. Finally, keep away from noise like traffic or pets. Right? And if something makes a really loud sound in the background of your performance, then you should go back and re-record. Third thing you don't want to have in your self-tape is a cluttered or distracting background, right? Because it's just going to distract from your performance again. These are the things that casting directors are looking at and being like, what is this person? They are not very professional, right? Same with agents. Agents especially. If your self-tapes don't have a super professional setup, no agent will sign with you. So what you want to do is to use a plain wall, like a white wall, or a simple professional flat backdrop. Don't have posters or decorations behind you or a room behind you. And also be sure that if you do use a backdrop, it's not wrinkled, okay? That's going to show that you don't pay attention to those small details, and it's a major annoyance, and it's actually more distracting than you might think. So I recommend using a steamer or something to fix it, or you can stretch the background tight against the wall, like use nails or something to hold it in place. All right, fourth thing that you should not do in self-tapes is wearing over-the-top clothes, okay? So going crazy with a full costume, especially if you have a mask on or something, or you're wearing clothes that have wild patterns or anything crazy, that's generally not standard, and casting directors don't like it, especially bigger casting directors. I actually say that you can use full costume when you're submitting self-tapes for indie productions that don't use high-level casting directors. And that's because those indie directors and filmmakers are going to get a kick out of it and actually like when actors go above and beyond. But for major casting directors, it's usually a little bit safer to not do the full costume. Instead, you should aim to just generally match the character and wear something that kind of hints at who the character is. I actually did a previous episode specifically on this topic if you want to listen to it. I believe it's the most recent episode, number 131, What to Wear for Self-Tapes, or something like that is the title. Number 5, you don't want to not be ready, right? So you don't want to be forgetting your lines or doing a performance that's just bad. That's obviously a major problem for an important self-tape, something that's going to show that you didn't put any effort into it. Okay, so make sure to practice your lines ahead of time. Memorize your lines is definitely something that I recommend doing as often as you can. And be really clear on the choices that you make. Now, this is really important, both of these things, because some productions will actually say generally what the character is. And if you just kind of use that, it's not going to be clear enough. So you have to make up stuff if it's not clearly outlined in the script. Same thing with the line memorization. Many projects will say memorization is not required for the audition. But the thing is I still recommend that you memorize them because generally speaking, at least some of the other actors who are trying to get that role will memorize the lines. And then whoever's casting for the film is going to assume that those actors care more about their project than all of the actors who didn't memorize the lines. And so instantly you're hurting your chances of booking the role by not memorizing. Number 6, in terms of the things that are not something you should be doing for your self-tape, is bad framing. Okay, so if the camera is way too close, where you are basically above the chest and just cutting at the neck or even closer than that, that's going to be bad. Same with if it's too far away, like a full body shot, or if you're not in the center. Unless they have very specific instructions on how to frame it, just make sure generally that you're going to frame from about chest up, and you're going to leave just a little bit of space above your head, and that you're going to stay in the middle of the frame. All right, number 7, looking directly at the camera when you're doing auditions or self-tapes. It's not absolutely always the case that this is a problem, but in general, it's recommended that you look slightly off camera. Looking directly at the camera can actually be a bit distracting, and it can make it harder for casting directors to judge your performance. So instead, you want to look at whoever your reader is. So they should stand about 30 degrees off to either the left or the right of the camera, and then you'll look towards them. If you look directly at the camera, again, it's distracting. If they stand further away than 30 degrees off to the side, we won't be able to see enough of your face. All right, number 8, overcomplicating your setup, right? So you don't want to do crazy lighting setups or fancy camera angles or anything that's going to distract from your acting, okay? So what you want to do is you want to use a tripod and you want to keep the camera still. Let your acting be the focus and do not add any music or editing, right? You definitely do not want to edit unless it's right after your slate where you have a quick cut, because having cuts or fades or any sort of fancy editing anywhere within the audition is going to make the casting director think that you forgot your lines or messed up somehow and tried to edit it out. And so they're not going to take your submission seriously. It needs to be one straight take all the way through, and the camera should not be moving at all and just looking at you straight on. Number 9 is skipping instructions. This is another thing you do not want to do when you're submitting self-tapes. If you don't follow the instructions or their directions exactly, they're probably just going to toss your tape immediately. So you want to read and you want to follow all the rules, like what file format, what slate instructions, meet any deadlines, any of that stuff. Think of it almost as like a shortcut for them to help narrow people down. Oftentimes what casting directors will do is post some sort of instruction, and then instantly all the people who don't follow that specific instruction get cut. So then the casting director only has to watch half of the submissions to save them a lot of time. Number 10, the last thing of what you should not do when submitting self-tapes is not making clear choices. So an unclear performance is just generally going to be hard to watch. So you want to go through the script and you want to fully understand it. And then you want to make sure that you're clear on your character's goals throughout the scene. What do they want and why do they want it? And of course, who are you talking to if it's not already stated? So that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for listening. Now, if you want to dive even deeper on self-tapes and auditioning, I highly recommend checking out my podcast called Why Playing It Safe in Auditions Could Be Sabotaging Your Acting Career. And that's episode number 114. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a much better understanding of what it takes to do a standout audition. Again, that is episode number 114, Why Playing It Safe in Auditions Could Be Sabotaging Your Acting Career, and it's on the Actor's Career Compass. Lastly, if you're interested in working with me one-to-one, you can learn more about how that works on my website, martinbentsen.com, my last name Bentsen. I'd love to speak with you, and we'll see if you're a good fit for the coaching program. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.